This Pimax Crystal Light has less features than the preceding Crystal Original. Is this a case where less is more? Hello, this is Ender, and welcome to my VRcade. On this channel, I focus on sharing my enthusiasm for the most immersive virtual reality experiences possible. Of course, the most immersive part to immersion is what we see and hear, and that all starts with the headset. Therefore, I am always excited to review a new headset, in this case, the Pimax Crystal Light, as is always the case, and was 1 year ago with my review of the Pimax Crystal Original. I do not create sponsored reviews or take any money to create content, and I express my opinion freely. This is stated in the loan agreement for the Crystal Light I signed with Pimax. They provided me the headset, and my only obligation is to create a review of it. They have no editorial rights and will not see this video before it goes live. You are welcome to share your own constructive criticism and experiences with Pimax in the comments. However, as always, I do ask that you do so with polite language and reasons explaining your opinion so others can understand what you have to say. Speaking of your own opinion, stay tuned to the end because I am planning an event for you to try out Pimax headsets for yourself for free. What purpose does the less expensive Crystal Light serve when the original Pimax Crystal already exists? Is the light just a downgrade to hit a price point, or does it have some advantage unique to it? A lot of VR aficionados might know the answer to that question already, either through their own research, or watching other reviews, or their own purchase. I know I am rather late to the party to review this headset, as I was with the original Crystal, but I think that with time comes perspective, and the perspective I can offer is to overlook the fear of missing out or hype that so many channels rely on to sustain themselves. I have been using the original Crystal, or OG as it is commonly nicknamed, for a while now, in games that fit my rather unique and less popular focus. My go-to games, for example, are Beat Saber, Elite Dangerous, Into the Radius 1 and now 2, and I've barely made any content with the trendiest game on that list because I enjoy copyrighted tracks with anime openings playing, and that would be an instant channel strike, and because I would look ridiculous. Well, even more than I already did in some of my other videos. My point being, I play for immersion rather than high score or lots of likes. The same is true for why I enjoy Into the Radius, which I love because I can explore a massive game world while racking up actual steps on my VR treadmill while white knuckle gripping a flashlight in the dark. Do you see how much gear I am wearing? It would be easier to play these games with my wireless Quest 3, but it wouldn't be as rewarding to me due to being a lower quality experience, i.e. less immersive. And while Elite Dangerous has finally been improving, it is still, as I said in this video, among VR's smallest niche. I hope this shows my focus is not on chasing trends and views. Now, my earlier comments aren't to say that I don't appreciate reviewing the newest trending standalone only games like the Batman Arkham game or Asgard's Wrath 2. They are certainly impressive, but I believe they are the exception and not the norm for standalone quality. So as I said, one of the things I'm looking at in this video is why do we have the Crystal Light when the original already launched? Well, let's look back to what the circumstances were. Quest 2 sales were through the roof and everyone was convinced that PC VR was dead and hybrid headsets that could be standalone or work with PCs was the only way to go. The relatively affordable upgrade for Simmers, the Reverb G2 that I purchased as an early adopter at the time, was great for Elite because I could actually read the text on screen finally, and it was also awful for its Windows mixed reality platform. And if you think people have some complaints about setting up Pimax headsets, they have no idea of the pain of us Reverb G2 owners. So that led two hybrid headsets to launch and try to capitalize on the success of the Quest 2. The Quest Pro at $1,500, if anyone can remember that, at least that's what it launched at, and the original Crystal starting at $1,600 for customers willing to spend more to get the next great, better headset. And if you don't remember the Quest Pro, I don't blame you. You can check out my rant on it on a video that I'll link to. Some of its most standout features being the best resolution on the market, clear, non-Fresnel or aspheric lenses, QLED panels for amazing blacks, not as amazing as OLED, but much better than the Quest's LCD, dynamic eye-tracked foveated rendering, auto IPD, wired DisplayPort connection for clear, uncompressed video, and high-quality off-ear headphones as an option. However, a lot of criticism was that a lot of the cost and weight of the Crystal OG was dedicated to the standalone mode, which wasn't really in demand for the sim market or many existing Pimax owners. I think the worst trade-off that made the standalone work was the required battery, which added weight and didn't even stay fully charged when plugged in. Pimax did offer a supplemental wall plug adapter to keep it charged for longer, but nobody wanted battery anxiety in a headset or extra weight to deal with when plugged in. Then Quest 3 launched with actually lower resolution than Quest 2, albeit with much improved lenses, which is really important. And it put a lot of the price of that headset or money into the color pass-through cameras, which are great if you're into mixed reality, but I don't consider that very immersive. It offered a very compelling package and especially was more appealing to people still interested in standalone gaming. And Pimax realized they had to adapt, and they did so with the Lite. They addressed user complaints by dropping the standalone components for a price drop from $15.99 to $6.99 and a weight reduction of 310 grams or 10.9 ounces, which works out to being about 30% lighter. They kept the same great lenses and panels, excellent, albeit optional DMAS headphones. As for the included SMAS headphones, I cannot recommend them to anyone. They sound worse than the Quest 2 headphones to me. And good enough for most gamers controller tracking, but dropping the standalone parts like the battery, auto IPD, eye tracking hardware as well. Dropping the standalone mode was welcome, but the loss of eye tracking, which I think was the main disappointment, meant you had to have a higher performing GPU, at least if you were using a NVIDIA GPU that supported most eye tracking. The end result, though, was cutting the price roughly in half and now being competitive with said Quest 3, if you had a PC that could run it. So I've had the original for quite a while, and I ran it with the 7900 XTX, which is basically running a Crystal Lite because the 7900 XTX, with few exceptions, doesn't really have eye tracking support. Another big thing about the Crystal OG and Lite is it has tremendous color range. So with the Quest 3 even, I feel like I'm only seeing 10 colors and they're very uniform. I don't see much gradient between the colors. I feel I notice a much wider color range with the Crystal and Crystal Lite. And chromatic aberration is a factor here, and that I think is due to the lenses. So the Quest 3 has pancake lenses, which have a tremendous sweet spot. So great edge-to-edge clarity and less aberration or color distortion. With the Crystal Lite, it has aspheric lenses. And because they're a single layer, at least this is my understanding, you get much better brightness, although a smaller, but still, I think, great sweet spot. I really only notice the chromatic aberration when I'm looking at, say, white letters on a black background and I'm looking at one letter, I can see a little kind of rainbow or prism effect on the edge of letters, or if I'm looking at the very edge of the lenses. Now that's something I don't see with the Quest 3, but as I said, I think the colors are very disappointing. And another thing is because the pancake lenses on the Quest 3, while excellent quality, they do reduce the brightness tremendously. When I go from my Crystal to my Quest 3 sometimes, I keep trying to turn up the brightness and I'm really annoyed with how shockingly dark everything is. Now, controllers. Here, the Quest 3 does have things beat. The controllers in the Quest 3 are phenomenally tracked. The Crystal Light does include controllers, and they are inside-out tracked, meaning you don't need expensive base stations. However, one of the biggest criticisms is that they are very light feeling or cheap feeling. I personally don't consider that a big trade-off. I'm not as concerned about look or feel as I am functionality. Crystal controllers do work well, I think, for most gamers. I did see some loss of tracking when I would hold the controllers down at my side, but playing the game itself or fighting games, I did notice a loss in tracking. I will also note here on the topic of room tracking or remembering your space or guardian area is that frequently it does not remember your space when you restart the headset and you have to track it again. One of the more annoying aspects is when the floor sometimes appears by your waist, even though you took the time to map that out earlier. Beat Saber. So with Quest 3 or Index controllers, I play at an expert level and I don't have any loss in tracking. With the Crystal and Crystal Light with the inside-out track controllers, it's pretty much unusable for me at my level. So if you're not too picky on controllers, it is a step up in visual and audible quality to go to a Pimax Crystal Light over the horror, in my opinion, quality of the Quest 3. There is a solution though for better controllers. Some eagle-eyed viewers might see this, that I don't have the standard faceplate. This is the Lighthouse faceplate, and that allows you to use Lighthouse base stations and Index controllers. This will cost you $199, plus you need the actual Index controllers at about $280 last I checked, and a pair of Lighthouse base stations for an additional $300. So that's adding a lot to the price of this headset. And I think the Index controllers are fantastic. I love them for things like Beat Saber. If anyone saw my review previously, I wasn't happy with the Lighthouse faceplate because I had a lot of random and intermittent tracking loss. With the Crystal Light, as opposed to the original, right out of the box, this is not the one I modified, more on that in a bit. The tracking is really good. I played for about an hour and I only had maybe 3 very brief tracking losses. And I think if I were to move the antennas around like I did that others actually came up with, it will track consistently, because it does track consistently now on my Crystal Original. Another hugely important thing about the Crystal Light is that a 30% reduction in weight might not sound like much, but it is a big deal. I've got used to the Crystal Original, which is heavy as can be, for a year, but I know I'm the exception and probably not the norm who doesn't mind that too much, or at least I thought I didn't. This headset is so much lighter, it's shocking. In fact, I've had to use a lot of extra weight to counterbalance it, so I didn't feel like I was having too much weight on my cheeks with the Crystal Original. With the Crystal Light, I use about half the weights that I used with the Crystal Original. These are sold by Studio Form Creative to help balance it out. I also have this Apache strap by Studio Form Creative, and it even fits better than the Crystal Original, because on the Crystal Original, you had a DisplayPort extension, basically, that kind of got in the way of the strap, although now I hear they have a better fitting overhead strap as well. I don't think this is as necessary as the counterbalance weight. I think if this was all you had, the wider overhead strap versus what's on the original is enough, although this is nice to have, but I would get the weight. This is not the standard facial interface. This is the Studio Form Creative iSilk pad, which is super nice. It's very Index-like and very comfortable. The standard Crystal and Crystal Light interface is comfortable enough, but washing it is a problem because it starts falling apart basically when you go to wash it. And if you are concerned about that and you do a lot more aerobic or games like Beat Saber or Pistol Whip, or use a treadmill if you're one of those like me, then you're going to want to be able to clean it easily, or something that soaks up less sweat. Studio Form Creative does sell a PU, I believe it is, polyurethane or fake leather facial interface that works well for those as well. What I do wish they had though was this interface I got from Oblique that's custom fit to my face based on a scan of my face. and it's super comfortable. It's also got silicone, so there's no sweat absorption. And with that facial customization and the questions I put in, I could get a greater field of view, which is something I wish the Crystal had better of. You can see some of my numbers here for my testing for the stock Crystal, the stock Quest 3, the stock Index, and stock Reverb G2 for the field of view numbers that I got. Everyone's going to experience different numbers. It is my opinion that the Crystal Light is a natural choice if you have already tried VR and want a better experience. I think Light offers superior resolution, colors, and field of view than Reverb G2, and comes really close to its and the Index's audio. Versus Quest 3, it's an improvement in all those same ways, plus better brightness, uncompressed wired image quality, and optional DMAS headphones are an upgrade as well. You have to weigh that against the smaller sweet spot and poorer play space and controller tracking. There is no perfect VR headset, and the Crystal Light is no exception. It takes experience with a previous headset to know how to weigh those pros and cons for yourself. I am not pushing anyone to buy the Light and presenting my thoughts based on what I value in virtual reality. For what I consider the best immersion, Light, for me, is an overall upgrade to all my previous headsets and my current go-to. This may not be the same for you, and that is fine. I hope you watch many reviews because everyone experiences VR differently. And if you do decide this headset sounds like a good fit for you, Pimax has an upgrade to Crystal Light event at the moment, offering a discount on it if you have proof of ownership on headsets such as the Valve Index, HP Reverb G2, Oculus Rift S, Quest 2, Quest 3, and others. List where you found this video and use the code ENDER_gift for a mystery gift also. Honestly, I have no idea what the mystery is. The mystery to me also. Ideally, I would love to try out the Super. And in fact, Pimax has agreed to send me one, so that'll be in my next review. And if you would like to try out the Crystal OG, the Crystal Light, or the Crystal Super, and you happen to live near me in the Denver area, well, great news. I will be hosting an event soon, more details to come, where those who are able to make it to the Denver area will be able to try out those headsets for free. And I'm not taking a dime to do it. I'm doing it because of my love for VR, and I want people to try out these really cool headsets. And I think it'll be a fun opportunity to meet some of you. And here is Ender from the editing room with one of those updates. Not only did my Super just arrive, but I've now can share that there will be more online to offline events, which is the name of the event, in additional locations to be announced by Pimax. Keep an eye out on their website and social media for more updates. If you actually appreciate my efforts on this review, your comments are what fuel me to keep going and make more content, and your likes mean YouTube might actually share this with some more people so I can continue to interact with the VR community and hopefully provide some entertainment and great information. Thank you so much for watching.